Guess who got assigned to the invasion force to Earth? The 4 younger troopers announced themselves as they walked into the feeding bay like they owned the place. Seems like Command learned from the mistake of letting a bunch of spelunkers and their security detail do the job that should have belonged to real soldiers. Mu let out a frustrated grumble and detached the vapor tube from his mouth. He had better things to do than let these wastes of nitrogen ruin his free night. He signaled the attendant to have the rest of his ration packed. He just realized the charm and allure of spending the rest of one's time before the next assignment in the solitude of a stasis pod. Unfortunately, the lead braggart was not satisfied with the few glares he got from the rest of the patrons, and decided to walk up to one of the older members of the sect that was beaten and disgraced on their trip to the Blue Marble. Amikom Mu, how is it going, old-timer? Heard the good news? We're being tasked with finishing the job your people could not. A pity Overlord seems to have decided not to have your sect involved. I guess we will have to do without your experience of... what was it again? A long service of guarding a bunch of extractors, and then getting your ass handed to you by primitives. All 4 of them shook in the equivalent of laughter for their kind. Ukio? Mu made no attempt to veil the disgust in his tone. I could explain to you why you likely won't even get the chance to reflect on those words, but why bother? Even if you had the mental faculties needed to comprehend, what would be the point? To explain their imminent demise to 4 sacks of arrogance and stupidity, about to jump down into a meat grinder? He turned away to leave. Ha! The natives of that planet mop the floor of your sect, and now you all quake in fear when they are even mentioned? You are all truly pathetic. Ukio threw a can after the old soldier. Trying to leave, Mu pretended not to notice, but then one of them had to say it. Come on, y'all. Leave the poor miner alone. What could they have done against the scary primitives? Maybe if they had switched back to pickaxes to be on their level. Mu turned around. What did you call me? You heard me. Another round of laughter started, but was cut short when the veteran trooper lunged forward, kicking the one calling him a miner into a table with both forward legs. Their friends could barely jump from the shock to join in the fight, which turned out to be less fighting, more beating. 2 of them jumped at Mu, who managed to grab the one on his left by their feelers and spun around the younger trooper, who was shrieking in pain and terror as he was used like a flail to bludgeon his buddies before being thrown into their leader. You little punks! Ignorant hatchlings barely out of their clutch who think it is heroic to get themselves killed in the whims of a spiteful overseer, unable to see past their own ego. What do you know? We were no mere miners. Frontier extractor units are fully prepped and equipped combat units. The ones that see more action in a cycle, as all of you supposed pure combat sects do in their entire existence. Didn't seem to impress the natives of that planet much, Ukio spat, while waving his feelers menacingly at the older soldier, as he was standing up again. Face it, you fell because you did not have what it takes. We fell because we walked into a trap set up by one of the factions on that planet, who thought it would be funny to invite a third party to their planet-wide war because it was getting kinda stale. He grabbed a sofa from the side to fling it at one of his opponents trying to flank him. We failed because it is a planet of war-hungry maniacs who spent who knows how long to perfect the art of their favourite pastime. What do you think will happen if you get there? We will put down a bunch of primitives. Ukio jumped to Mu to attack at the same time as another one of his cohorts rushed him. Both merely crashed into each other as the veteran trooper sidestepped them at the last moment to climb on a table. You have no idea what awaits you. Neither did we. We detected a liquid ichor explosion, thinking it was going to be a walk in the Crystal Garden, like most of these are, with a mostly dead indigenous population that might not even need handling. What we got is getting shot in the face before even landing by an orbital weapons network. What we found were no half-dead primitives, but 2 fully militarized power blocks duking it out with each other, who did not even bother to stop going at one another's throats at our arrival. He kicked one with 2 of his legs as they were trying to reach him on his high ground. That makes you all the more pathetic! Ukio was trying to maintain the old-timer's focus as one of his mates was trying to circle around the table. You will fare no better. You think you will just sit around while your gunboats above do the job, so you can walk in to mop up the rest? While the natives of that planet try to take them down with primitive slug throwers? Only, they won't be shooting your friends above with single pieces of lead or iron that you imagine. What will meet them will be a hailstorm of inert uranium coated in tungsten. Do you know how long it takes for a battleship's shield to get overloaded when it gets shot from multiple angles, by several thousand rounds of that in a few moments? It takes seconds, and then even less for the poor bastards on the ship to die as they get more holes in them as a gas filter. He jumped from the table as all of them tried to rush him now, flinging it into two of them while jumping on top of Ukio. The leader of the four of them could not answer any more, as the kicks were raining down on him from Mu. And then what is going to happen is your commanding taskmaster will be sending in the tripods. You will think, surely they cannot stand up against their might, even if they are primarily specialized in ground warfare. He took a pause in beating the snot out of Ukio to walk over to the counter and take a drink that was left there. And then you will watch as a single one of the natives, not a unit, not an army, just a single one who strapped a rocket pack to their back like a suicidal maniac, flies over, attaches something to a leg of the first tripod, runs away as the walker gets taken down by the bomb. And then that lone native will do it all over again, to every single one of your tripods, as they are unable to hit that one around their legs. You will just watch, helplessly, as your spearhead is knocked down and left laying there. He took a sip before setting the cylinder back down. Then, to add insult to injury, while your remaining forces try to take control of the battlefield from the rest of the natives who come out to play after that, all hope gets lost as you watch some of them crawl into your tripods on the ground, which are beaten but recoverable. Only you are not the ones recovering them. They are, to turn those guns on the walkers against you. Not because they need them at that point, but just to show you that they can. You are delusional. No way anything like that happened. One of them snarled, but no longer willing to go near the old trooper. Even if it did, it will not happen to us. We will not make the same mistakes you did. Watch the recovered footage. But you might be right. Maybe it won't go down like that. Not at first, anyway. You might not be fighting the Golden Ones with their steel monstrosities that can withstand full barrages from a battleship while shooting you with their twin cannons and lobbing guided explosives at your air support. That only stop shooting so they can listen to your bodies getting crunched under the treads when they roll forward into your formation to pound it into the ground. Those were the ones who did that to us. And somehow it was not even the worst from them. Aside from loving overwhelming firepower and each of their armies carrying the destructive capability of a planetary fortress, they also had these resonator cannons that shot waves at you. Waves that go through everything, even ignoring your armor to liquefy your insides. But you might not face them. Mu walked sideways with the counter behind him, as these four seemed to recover and attempt to circle him again, but were hesitant now. You could be facing the black and red ones instead. You would think to yourself, well, this is easy. What did that old sack of spoiled meat talk about? All they do is run around screaming while trying to shoot you with pathetic little guns that barely do anything. The occasional flying explosive you can handle. And then you watch a whole bunch of them that run at you, waving their upper appendages around. Hilarious! These ones don't even seem to carry any weapons. What are they gonna do? Mu jumped up as one of them tried to tackle him, only to hit the counter head first. Well, what they are going to do is explode, demolishing your front line. You might think, okay, this is bad, but surely they are doing this out of desperation. Well, no. That force you did not even see getting into your flanks or your rear will quickly dispel that notion of them lacking the firepower to take you down when they reveal themselves with their missiles and high-powered laser beams. If you survive that, you might find yourself running back to your encampment in hopes of using your defenses, only to find that your base of operations is already gone, as they snuck in and demolished it to teach you a lesson about stealth and misdirection. And then they will drop a fission bomb on you for good measure. Ukio was now red with rage, running headfirst into Mu, but his cohorts were no longer willing to get involved, resulting in a trooper who got their legs swept from under them, knocked upside down, with the veteran jumping on top of him and holding him there, stepping on his feelers to make him squirm. Oh, sorry! That is too painful? Believe me, it is nothing compared to the pain you will feel if they decide that a fission warhead is just too merciful. So they drop a missile on you loaded full with a catalyst made to destabilize the ichor in your body instead. I admit I have no idea how it must feel to have your body burn and then explode from the inside. It sure looked horrific, and judging by the screams of my squad mates, well, you get the picture. Seeing the other's hesitancy to keep fighting, he remained on top of Ukyo, merely holding him down. So by all means, go to Earth with your free sex worth of an invasion force. Maybe you get to come back with a set of nightmares to keep you for the rest of your existence. You made that all up! Ukyo was screaming, as he could not do much else. What was that? He kicked the youngling under him. This is all nonsense. No indigenous population ever survives long after deposits get developed enough for liquid ichor. And I know the natives of Earth are fully carbon-based. It is poison to them. You claim your harvester unit was attracted by a liquid ichor explosion? None of what you told after that makes sense if you had a natural ichor detonation event to draw you in. That is because it was not a natural detonation event. Have you idiots not read the files on your target? Or listened to a word I was saying? They intentionally detonated a deposit to lure our opposition. Ukyo has a point. Why would they do that? It's poison to them. Did they just have a large part of their planet being uninhabited, where they could do that? They were rather attacking with words and questions now, having learned one lesson. No, and that is part of the point I am making. The population of that planet is equal parts brilliant masters of war and utterly deranged. They detonated a liquid ichor bomb in the middle of an area inhabited by them. They strap bombs to themselves even when not necessary, just because of how much they love the very idea of destruction. They use our seeded ichor as a power source and a weapon, despite knowing full well it will spread the material toxic to them. Some of them outright infuse it or try to snort it for fuck's sake. For some dubious short-term benefits, not caring that it will kill them in the long run. Did none of you read the file on them? Seriously? At least one part should have stood out to all of you. He let go of Ukyo, finally walking away. Which is? The younger trooper was dragging himself out of the way, having had enough. Later analysis of the data gathered has shown that we arrived in the middle of their 5th World War. The 5th! As in the 5th planet-spanning war they had involving nearly all of the planet and their population, the last 3 of which were between the same 2 factions. Think about what that means. The only way that could be if their war was not for dominance, not for wiping each other out, but just for the heck of it, to stop and allow the other to recover at some point, so they could keep the one thing going that they all live for. The thrill of beating each other senseless in an endless cycle of war. Mu slumped down at one of the couches. The only reason I am alive is because when the last threshold was being assembled, and the gold ones were coming after to finish us off, the black and red ones also around decided we were just not a worthy adversary, and it would be more fun to go after the gold ones again. All that time, they have demonstrated an uncanny ability to take and use our tech, by the way, but they did so only occasionally. Despite our advancements, they preferred their own loud and crude weaponry. I have to assume they were just unsatisfied by the barely audible pew-pew sounds of our plasma throwers and beam weapons, or the lack of a kick from them, much preferring the bang of their railguns and explosives, and the feeling of power the recoil and the shockwaves give them. The veteran trooper exhaled for a longer silence before speaking again. We are talking about a species that wrecked their own environment to huff the ichor dust themselves, had 5 world wars, and decided to invite us to spice things up in the last one because it was getting boring, and then pounded us like we had offended them by showing up with a force barely worth crushing. Mu rose again, looming over the 4 troopers who were now backing away, having had enough. You better believe you are not prepared for what you are getting into, and you should hope for just getting the same treatment, because if you manage to convince the natives of the world that we are worth killing after all, or worse, get them to take us seriously as an actual threat that they need to unite against, the galaxy will burn at their coming.